this is the next question. It's question 5, and pause this if you want to have a go. This is the entire question, and it's a football pitch, but it's a triangle instead of a rectangle. Might seem a bit of a daft concept having to score goals into a triangular football pitch, but there's a lot of crazy stuff in the world. So we have the side KM is 25 metres and the angle KML is 71. The area is 515. We want to find the length of side KL. Again, now is your opportunity and your last opportunity to pause the video before I explain how it's done. And I should say it's 5 marks. It's not as easy as it looks. It's at the very difficult end of National 5. Even if you get 2 marks out of 5 in this question, you're doing good because it's not as easy as it looks. So let's look at it. We're given the area and we're given one angle and one side. Many pupils would just use the formula to find KL from the get-go, but there's one issue. Let's have a look at the formula sheet. We're given this is 1/2 AB sine C. Now let's just write this down, and I'm going to write it in blue because this is an aside as such, because we have to adapt this formula because we don't have A, B or C. So this is in blue because it's not part of the answer. It's me demonstrating how this formula operates. We have this. The capitals are the angles. The lowercase are sides. And they are opposite each other. So the side and the angle, which are the same letter, are opposite each other. So we need to know this, and this in order to find the area. What that means is we have 2 sides and the angle between those 2 sides. You're thinking, that doesn't seem too bad. But take a look at the question. We have KM. We have the angle KML. But the side we want to find the length of is KL. But that's the wrong side because the angle is in between KM and LM. So we would first of all have to find LM. But we don't want to use A, B and C. We're going to instead use KM and L. So you're always going to be given this equation on the sheet. It's on the formula list. And it's 1/2. And we're going to use KM and L. So again, we have capital M and small m, capital K and small k, capital L and small l. Now we know KM is small l, and we know, or we want to find out KL, or sorry, ML, which would be K. Remember, we can't actually find KL at the minute because the area formula requires you to know or substitute in the two sides and the angle in between those two. And the sine of m. So start plugging in and we get the area is 515. We have 1/2. L is km is 25. Small k we don't know. And the sine of m is the sine of 71 because capital M, or the angle, is 71 degrees. And this, in my judgment, would be the allocation of mark 1. So this is the first mark in the solution. Let's rearrange this. So we have the half is multiplying on the right hand side. So if we divide both sides of this equation by a half, I wanted it in red. Let's go back. Get it in red. Let's divide by a half. But you can also see that the 25 is being multiplied on the left hand side. So if we then divide both sides by the 25, we can cancel it out. So we want to divide both sides by 1/2 and by 25. So if we cancelled both of them out, then you cancel out this one and this one by dividing both sides by 1/2 and by 25. But the sine of 71 is also being multiplied on the right hand side. So let's get small k on its own and cancel out sine of 71. So we want to divide both sides by the sine of 71. And I don't really have to do this part or show this part in full, but because the 1/2 to 25 and the sine of 71 are being multiplied, dividing both sides by those three give you k on its own. And this rearranging would be the second mark. Let's plug this into the calculator and find a solution, but I want to keep a lot of decimal places in because you do not want to round off too early. So making sure to use degrees and not radians, we get 43.57397 meters. Now the reason I give the second mark at this point at the substitution, but you don't get a mark for this answer, is because technically you can use this. Technically you could use this and then substitute this into the next part, but that's more complicated. This is not the final answer, so you want to keep as many decimal places as you can, but then round off the final answer. So we have that k equals that, and let's change the small k to capital LM because they mean the exact same thing. So we now have, I suppose we could just go back to this. So let's put in blue this time what we have. So we have this, we have this, and we have this. We want to find this. Now, let's have a look at the formula list again. You've got the sine rule and the cosine rule. Now, the idea with the sine rule is that you would get rid of one of these and you would be left with two pairs of sides and angles, which you have to substitute in. But you know one angle and you're not calculating a second one. So this one wouldn't work because if you only know one angle, but you've got, two sides and you want to find a third side, the sine rule isn't going to work because you're not dealing with pairs of sides and angles. So it cannot be the sine rule in this question. You've got two forms of the cosine rule. Both of them mean the exact same thing, but one of them is designed for finding a side and one's designed for finding an angle. We want to find a side, so the small a is the best one, and we're going to stick with this. So we want to use the cosine rule. We want to adapt the cosine rule to the situation. And the one we want to find is small m. We want to find out the length of small m. So instead of a squared, we want to write m squared. And we can then substitute the other two small letters in place of b and c. So that would become k squared plus l squared. And minus 2 kl cosine of m. So we change b for k and c for l and a for m. So a, k, l. And it's at this point that I would give the third mark for strategy, because you need to know to first of all find the area, then use the cosine rule. So I would give you a mark for the strategy. So even if you get the numbers wrong, I would give 1 mark for a strategy or knowing what to do, because this is a difficult question. Now, k is what we had in the last section, and we want to keep all of the decimal places. L is this km, and we know that's 25. So 25 squared minus 2 times 43.57397 multiplied by L is 25, and the cosine of M, we have angle M is still 71. And this would be the fourth mark is for this substitution. So that is mark 4. And the last mark would be for the final answer. So we want to find the value of m squared. Make sure you know which terms have a squared and which don't have a power. So make sure you watch out for the terms that have to be squared. You want to be really careful with this sort of question. And the answer we get is 1,814.37601. That's the answer for m squared. But to find m, we want to then find the square root of all of this. So let's find the square root. And that's going to be, I'm just going to put it up here to save space. Call it KL equals M, which equals 42.59549 meters. The question doesn't mention anything about rounding, so you always check to make sure, does the question ask you to round anything? No, it doesn't in this case, so I would go with 3 significant figures. So 42.6 that would be. And that is the fifth mark. So I hope you found this useful. And I know this one's difficult, but if you can get anything at all in this question, if you got any of the 5 marks, then you're doing well, because this one is difficult. So best of luck with the studying, and thanks for watching.